What up, guys? Jason Godwin here, and tonight I've got a special guest. I'm excited. He's a fireman, or he was a fireman, just like I was a fireman. And we're going to talk about the great debate of renting versus leasing, leasing versus year one versus year two. I always like to call it all-inclusive service and versus leasing. And so those are the things that we are going to hit on tonight, so that way you guys can get there. And I already feel like this is going to be an awesome live. Joey and I think we've met. He actually came to the Haven training here last year or two, and that's where I actually got to meet him in person. And we both have a lot of like stories. And so that's the awesome thing about this. You're going to learn a lot. I promise you're going to learn a lot. He's from Texas, so I can hear the people now from Texas. If you're from Texas, give us a shout out. But that's what I'm excited about tonight. But before we get there, today, this weekend, we had a great weekend. I got to, it was my 17th wedding anniversary. So we've been married, me and my wife been married for 17 years. We got a 16-year-old daughter about 2 weeks ago. She turned 16. And so, I'm all about family. And that is the reason why I want to help you guys grow your business so that you can have for family, right? You can have time freedom and you can have financial freedom. And if you run a successful business, you can have both of those. And that is the goal for me to help you, is to have that. And so I know I give a lot on here. And so that is what we'll be talking about. But before we get started here, let's find out more about Joey. Tell me just a little bit about yourself, your story, kind of how you got started in the Christmas light business. How you was a fireman, transferred over. Just tell us a little bit about how you got here.
Yeah, it's been a long journey. So with it is that I am married to Chelsea. We were high school sweethearts. I traveled to Louisiana to go be with her. We have two sons. They're getting bigger and bigger. We've been married for 13 years. Our sons are 11 and 12. And with that is we kind of traveled around a little bit. So I went to Louisiana to be with her from Colorado. If you look at our business number, it's a Colorado Springs number, and I'm in Texas. It's kind of weird, but that's how you kind of get started with business, is just using your number. And with it is I moved to Louisiana. I was a firefighter paramedic. That's probably one of my best times of firefighting because of all the arson that's around there and the poverty and stuff. And you kind of, when you're an emergency responder, you want emergencies, you want to perform. And so I was around great people, great leaders, great people. I talk to people from Louisiana, but with that is we kind of wanted a little bit more. So we moved over to Dallas, Fort Worth area because Chelsea was in high fashion retail and Dallas is a great market for that. And so we moved over, we kind of test the waters a little bit, but then we moved over here. I worked offshore for a year. So I was a roustabout, floor hand, and I also did on the job training for a medic out there because I was a medic already and trained up as a medic. And it wasn't for me so much. It was a lot of work. It's hard. I mean, those people are American muscle. Those people work really hard and they're away from their families for a long time. I kind of wanted to be closer to my family and my boys and stuff. So I ended up going back to the fire service. I've trained up. I'm USAR trained, rope rescue, confined space, structural collapse. It just goes on and on. I was on truck and rescue companies as well as I didn't shy away from the medic stuff. I know some guys get into the rescue stuff and they're like, I'm not a medic. No, I dug into it. I know all the calculations. I even trained to be a flight medic. So that's a lot harder. And I hung it all up because I was at a department and somebody asked me if I wanted to help their business hanging Christmas lights when I moved to Texas. I'm like, that's a thing. And that was 9 years ago. And I was like, how much is it? And he said $20 an hour. And I'm like, if you're making $20 an hour, like, I just want to make sure it's appropriate, right? Like, what are you making? And so I kind of stalled that year. I transitioned departments. And then when I got hired at my new department, like a bunch of guys did it. I'm like, what is going on with this Christmas stuff? And they said, it's perfect for us because we have off days and everything else. Even one firefighter that was a driver gave me a bunch of C7 socket lines, says all I do is C7. So I was like, I'm going to start it this year. So I made door hangers. And on those door hangers, I did C7 bulbs because I thought that was the thing. And I started hanging them and people would call me and say, but can you do C9s? And I was like, oh man, I got to scratch out all these C7s on my marketing and put C9s. And one thing I did was at the bottom was I would quote the roof line and archway, and I would put the price. And I had like 5 different ones in my pocket. I would go around the neighborhoods and I would walk it. And then I realized my neighbor was selling a pink electric scooter across the street. And I'm like, I think I could speed this up. And so then I bought the pink electric scooter for $20. It's still at our warehouse. It's hung from the rafters and everything else because I want people to know like that's what it took. I thought I was like Napoleon Dynamite, like and skirt up, and I'm like, you want Christmas lights, you know? But I thought it was cool, and I did really good my first year. Just to tell real numbers, is I did about 85,000 with one guy. I bought $3,000 worth of lights, and I ended up blowing through that within 1 week. And I was like, holy moly, because that was my goal to like just sell and flip it for like 400% markup and just be done with it. No, I pushed it hard and kind of got obsessed with it, which is I think my personality a little bit. I kind of get obsessed with things and hyper focused on things, and that's one thing about this whole thing that we're talking about is about boundaries and about getting to the next step, not growing too fast. That's a real problem too, right? So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. And so, like I said, we're both firemen. We both came from that. We both quit the firehouse. A lot of people love the firehouse, and I still love it. It's just that isn't for me. So let's talk a little bit about leasing versus selling the lights, and then we'll go into a little bit further of year 1 versus year 2. So how did you start your business? Did you start selling them right out of the get-go, or did you start the lease, or as I would say, all-inclusive service-wise?
So this is where I thought what I was the mad scientist genius, and I came up with a brilliant idea. Is I offered to lease like right out the gate, and I did not go to any trainings. I did not talk to any other people. The firemen they all sold the lights to the clients because they didn't want to deal with the storage and everything else. And I was like, but if you look at it, like what are they paying you for? And I think it's the service. It's a skill and risk, and when you combine those two things, it's worth a lot of money. And what if the bin isn't put out or what if it like it didn't make sense to me when people told it to me. So I was like, I'm gonna lease it. I'm gonna start selling it that way and I'm gonna store their lights for them and I'm gonna say in my terms and conditions blatantly that you're leasing these lights. Well, I did a house. It was an easy 1 story, but they decked it out. I kind of gave them a deal. This was back in like 2017 time. So like I was like $4 a foot, which I think at that time was fine with inflation and everything else. It wasn't bad. Like you were making a lot of money. And they posted on Facebook, which is what I was targeting in the Facebook neighborly groups, because there's a lot of HOAs around here. They'll share it in their neighborly groups. And they do the Facebook reviews. And I made my stuff so high and tight. Even my bulbs on the windows had to be symmetrical. Like they had, if it didn't match up, I still took the slack and then I glued it to the side and everything. And they were like, I've never seen, like, this is so clean. And to this day, no, even in me in the company, is I turn a cheek to a lot of stuff because people can't keep up that quality, right? You can't grow a business. Like if there was 100 of me, like what is that movie Multiplicity, where he replicates himself and then he has like kind of a dumb one of himself and everything is like you just won't, you can't replicate yourself like that. And so I think that's what a big thing, a part of the leasing model and building up infrastructure in your business. I think that stuff to scalability and what is it called? Sustainability. So sustainability and scalability, I think, is what people should really focus on. And are they building the right business model to it? So, yeah, but there's lease first buy. I want to be very clear. Both of them can make money. So if you pick one or the other, it's just about, it's harder to change it in the future. You can't have like you sold to your clients and then you try to convert them to leasing, which trust me, I acquisition a couple companies. We did that, and we were growing so big that if we lost 15%, 20% of your clients, it doesn't matter because I have this big commercial project I'll throw on you. You know what I mean? And then you'll make it up. So you're not going to lose revenue, but we need to transition out of that if you're going to do it this way.
And
So.
and here's the thing too, of I do know some people that do the sell model, but they don't do it like typical of what most people do. Most people will do the sell model and sell it at $7, $8 a foot and then do 50% off the second year. And so I know some people that do the sell model and they actually sell it for $12, $14 a foot, and then they come and they're basically doing it at 50 per 60% of that. So then they're still coming back at the $7, $8, and that way the customer can feel like they own the lights at that point. And that is one way to do it. But a lot of people, I feel like they will come in and they do it cheap, and then they're coming back for reinstalls for $300-$400, and that's kind of a hard thing to kind of be what you're saying of scale. And it's hard to pay employees to come out and do lights, and you all make money.
Yeah, I think it's an equation, and I think one thing you cannot do, and I've seen it because I'm mentoring quite a few guys right now, and I see it is that they idolize what the customer wants, so they build their business model to idolize that. And the problem with that is, and I fell victim to it too. So I leased out the gate, right? But then I would schedule, and I'm like, this is my top customer. Like this is like 12 grand for a residential rehang. We can do it in one day. This is big money, right? I'm going to put them on Black Friday, like weekend and all that stuff. And I did that. And then all of a sudden, I think it was 2 years ago, I said, let me ask people what they want, because I need to build my business around my clients, not about and their needs, not about what I believe is done. So we had one that was like $10,000 to do globes, the retrofits globes, and they sparkle
Yeah.
in the tree. It's a great way to decorate trees, especially here in Texas, and then do the trunk with mini lights. And he was like, after a couple of years, he was kind of like, hey, I talked to some people and they were kind of like, man, you spent a lot for Christmas lights. So I just started asking. Little to mind you, he spent $25,000 for the landscape lighting thing with me. Like I made plenty of money off of him. He's a great client. And then he was like, can I save any money? And I was like, well, you're in our prime time of commercial space. So you know what? I could probably do 20% if you do it like end of September, and then we just don't turn it on. He was like, that sounds good to me. But then I took all those man hours and displaced them in the time of our like stretching our season out. So is that worth that time for me? Absolutely, because then I can get a new commercial and fill that space there. So with it is like you idolize that you want to do these things for your clients, but really you just need to talk to your clients, listen to your clients, and then fit them into where they need to be. And I think that's what we do here, is we kind of look at the business. The business is morphing around our clients. It's not what I want. It's what the clients want. It's a service.
And that's kind of back to the red carpet service of the all inclusive service, because it is fit around their needs at that point versus what you need. And I think that's a great point of what you just brought up here, because a lot of times we bring up what we need, but not actually what the customer wants at the end of the day. And so that's a great point to move to the next point of, because you kind of just said we discount at 20%, but I know what you're going to say. So what do we do for year one? And I know a lot of times people always ask this question of, I did year one. What do I do for year two, year three, and year four? And I'd like to hear your take on that.
Absolutely. Because mentoring these guys, I hear some of these guys have been doing it for a while, right? And then some are just starting out. I love the guys who are starting out because I can fix their like trips and falls, and the learning curve is lower for them. But some guys that are like doing bigger numbers, it takes a little more to like open their eyes a little bit, that they're like, but I'm winning. And I'm like, no, you could win bigger, and one guy said he takes 10% deposit. He does over six figures and he takes 10%. I'm like, why are you taking a 10% deposit? We take a 50% deposit to book. And he's like, well, if I can just get them on the books, then I got them. Right. And I'm like, they're your clients. If they're going to book or they're not going to book, you know what I mean? For us is we don't do it for commercial, but for residential, we give a 25% discount as a continued client discount. So it is, we provide a service. It's not the materials. That's not what we're saying. I'm saying that when we cut your house and custom fit it and everything, now next year it's more of like a rehang as a service, and so therefore the labor hours are less, and we're going to pass that on to you as a client. For commercial, it's very aggressive, especially here in the DFW. It's insanely aggressive, and so their prices we kind of lower a little bit, and it just sustains, right? But you have these guys, like you said, is they sell the customer their lights and then they rehang it for 50% off. So if I'm at 25 and you're at 50, you just gave up 25. That's a form of lost revenue. Did your clients say for you to mark it down 50%? What's your conversion if you just marked it down 25%? Are they running away? Are people running away? And I think that's big with your terms and conditions. I think that's the biggest thing when people get into this industry is terms and conditions. Every business has it. We just changed terms and conditions this week based on one property. So in 8 years is like I've saw it for the first time, and it was a crazy thing, but I have to put it in there that we will do it this way. And we charge late fees if you don't pay within 30 days. By Texas law, you have 30 days to pay. We say it's due on install. You could really drag your feet because that's Texas law. We issue an invoice and then you have 30 days to pay. And if you don't pay after that, then there are penalties. And you think that if you put that in there, they're not going to convert on the quote. No, it's about boundaries and it's about accountability. You're going to provide a service, you're going to be accountable and show up on time. They need to also pay on time. And if they don't do that, then there's penalties. And to be honest with you, that's how you get that. Like you're always preaching about these higher numbers, is because when you do that, then those people who do pay higher numbers, they're looking for you to be accountable in terms and conditions. They really are. And so they're like, they don't want a company where there's no terms and conditions. Then everybody's doing whatever they want. And people with money, they just don't want to be interrupted. They don't want problems in their future, right? If I had a lot of money, I was multi millionaire. If I paid for somebody to come out and hang my lights, I don't want there to be a problem. I have enough money in life for my life to be smooth. So if you can execute on that and you can communicate on that, you got my money. And that's the clients you want to draw in.
I like what Sam put. Just save the card on file and click the pet button at the end, and that's one reason why I like to get the 50% off. And I know you're saying 25%. The one thing I did smart when I had my businesses is I actually did a 3-year agreement. Now the agreement literally didn't mean crap, but it was a way to try to drive traffic back. At hey, if you sign the 3-year agreement, we will do them at 15. It was usually about 15% off all 3 years. And so I know Sam, he kind of went after that model too, and he's been blowing up, getting huge, and he has a bunch of 3-year contracts coming in that year after year that he's getting paid for. And so again, it's just another way. And then, I know some people that they don't pay, they don't give nothing back. In fact, sometimes giving money back as inflation goes, right? The dollar is not worth the dollar as it was just 2 or 3 years ago. The dollar is worth a lot less at this point. So actually, when you give that much money off sometimes, plus what the inflation is, you're really giving a huge discount to what they are. And so I know some people for year two will say the deal you get is we're not going to raise your prices, because that is what the dollar was worth last year isn't the same as what it's worth this year. And it's pretty crazy of how much the dollar has went down in the last 5 years versus the time before that, of how far inflation has gone up and everything. So
Yeah, I think
just a thought on it.
yeah, I think with that is I'm gonna share my experience of what I did this year with people. But if you Google, the value of the dollar has dropped, and there is a legit federal government website that will show you the value of the dollar before this year and that. In the past 5 years, I think it's 25%. So what that means is if you haven't raised prices in 5 years, you're actually making 25% less. And that's a big gap. That's like even people, I think about people with retirements and they retired in like 2019 or something. Bro, you may have to go back to work. You know what I mean? If you retired a millionaire, it's worth now $750,000. That sucks, right? So we raised price. We didn't raise prices the year before this one for certain reasons in the company, but for this year, this is what I did because you said that we don't raise prices, so that's your savings with an inflation discount, right? I raised prices on everybody that wasn't in agreement, which is basically all residentials. We try to get our commercials because they actually you can uphold that. Residentials, if you move, you're like, I thought we had a 3-year agreement. They're not going to pay for 2 years of not living there. So, but what I did was across the board, I raised 10%. We usually launch quotes in August, around like mid August. That's where I get the most responsive. If you're dropping off your kids at school, you're thinking about the holidays, and that's when kids go back to school. So I raised 10%, and this is what I did. Well, I want cash flow, and I want to bring money in earlier. So, and that is worth something to me to be able to pre-order supplies and other things that we're doing, right? And so I raised everybody 10%, and I said, okay, here's if you book in July with our CRM, it shows the deposit, especially when I do it on the invoice after we complete the job, and it'll say July, like it'll say 7, 5, 10, they paid their deposit or whatever. It's pretty easy to track it and then add on 5%. So what I did was I raised prices 10%. And about 80% of all residentials booked based on that. But I'm taking 50% right now. And then when you do the job and you invoice out, then it's kind of discount a little bit. So then the client's experience is like, wow, I don't have that same chunk that I did before. And now I probably have a little bit more money during Christmas time. That was their thought. But is every client checking what you've been charging over the years? I've raised prices even since 2019, probably 15, 20, 25% on that client. But this one was a jump. And I was like, well, to combat inflation, you can come down to here. But what happened is even if they booked in July, what did I do? Even if you book in July and you got that 5% savings, I still raised you 5%.
Right.
So basically across the whole board of residentials is like, and then if you book later, like we had one client, $4,000 house, and they just booked yesterday. And I'm like, if you book right now, I can uphold that. I have margin now to play with to say, if you book right now, we can do you tomorrow, but you're super late.
Right.
And it's like, oh, so it forces their hand to be like, oh, I got to get on it. I got to get on it. It's that experience of like, I'm behind my neighbor had, I got to get on it. And so people not raising prices, and I feel like you're also not trying to do it in a way where you're talking to your clients to see if it's even doable for them to do it. And guess what? We do have 100 clients under $1,000. We have that because the profit per man hour is so big on those. It takes 15 minutes. I'm making more profit per man hour than the higher ones. So we go off profit per man hour. And guess who all paid the deposit in July?
Those people.
The people above the $1,000 mark. So that's great for a company because when you do offer these things, then it's value to the client. You know what I mean? And there's that margin, that gap where they will pay it because they have the money. These other people that are below, they're on a fixed income. That's the problem. And they'll have to pay more, and they did. So
What do you write, Sam? The new deposit in terms we implemented this year is a game changer. Eliminated all the headaches for
yeah,
booking, reinstalling, collecting all the money at once.
absolutely. Is accountability, and that's the thing I think with it is I think a lot of guys are scared. They don't have the comment. They think their customers are going to run away, and it's like I think you just have a conversation with your client saying these are new terms, and you stand your ground. And when you stand the ground, you're like you stand for something, right? And I know what I'm getting as a service, and that's how they're able to convert.
Our old boy Ron's in the house. What's up, Ron?
Oh yeah,
So let's talk about a little bit. I know we talk. I know this was mostly going to be about the scaling and leasing, but let's talk about moving a little bit to scaling. Let's talk, you know, how to get to six figures and then how to move up from there, right? Because I feel like six figures you can do six figures. You can almost do $200,000 with you and probably a helper, and you're able to get there. You're going to work your butt off, but you can do that, right? I believe that is one. And so, what are some thoughts on how do we go from 200 to keep moving up from there? What are some thoughts on that for you?
100% systems. So if you look at it, even Walmart has a door greeter. A door greeter to me is like, well, that may be a waste of money in a company, but he's also looking at people running outdoors. He's going to report things, and like they have these systems that just they work, right? And so I think one big thing is when you scale up, I ran into this problem of an inventory management system. And there are 1,000 SKUs within Christmas lights. It's insane. We just added 750 SKUs to our inventory management this past week. Like that is a lot of work on Jonathan's end and my end to make sure and execute that. And so with it is more money, more problems. That's what happens. And with that is like I'm doing Google Sheets or I'm doing this with no a CRM is a CRM for certain reasons because you can find things. One thing is we bought lights from a vendor. We buy a lot from this vendor. It was close to 1 million last year, and they misinvoiced us $16,000. And Jonathan caught it. And could you imagine if I didn't have all my ducks in a row? I would have lost $16,000 because of that. Keeping up with product of the years it was applied, because LEDs dim down over time, and you have this giant bucket of all these used lights, especially with a leasing company. And how do you keep track of that? Um, all the way from employees to clocking in, making people aren't flexing time. We just fired a guy because he had 19 missed punches in 2 weeks. You're done. You're gone. You know what I mean? Because everybody else punches in on time and you're kind of flexing time. But if I don't have the systems to catch that, then I can't catch it. The one thing we're doing right now is Jonathan started using Discord. He uses it a lot for all of his stuff, but I've started looking at it and I'm like, something to keep everything in line. Between all these tangents in the business, between inventory management, my CRM, the crews telling me things. Well, it creates little channels in it, and we use it for our own internal company. I think it's a better way to communicate too. We have our phone system. We have a business line that we talk in and everything else. Some people use Google Chat with their crews and stuff like that. Great. This is just a way to organize it. And my goal this year, and just from somebody trying to scale up and everything, my goal, my number one goal this year, is to find anything within the company. You can ask me anything within 30 seconds. I can deliver it to you. So if you say
Not
how
just
many
deliver it to you, you can deliver the whole system to you of what needs to happen at that point is basically what you're trying to get to, correct?
what was that? I missed the
Not
front part.
when you say you'll be able to find it, you'll be able to find that system basically with that question that someone's trying to ask you, correct?
No, I will deliver the answer, not find the system. So like let's say we have nutcrackers, and I pitched it to a client and I said, Jonathan, what did I order those for 3 years ago? Right. And he'll in 30 seconds he should tell me, you buy each nutcracker for $2,300.56 and had this in shipping. In 30 seconds, he should tell me that. If you
Gotcha.
can't, it's a problem. Yeah.
And that's getting pretty in depth at that point.
But that's the lengths that I'm saying you need to go to in your craft to be able to hit these like seven figures as a seasonal business. That is very challenging. You have to be dialed in. You have to have systems. We still prep lights since day one that I started this. We prep lights the exact same way, and so we haven't changed that system because it hasn't. I have never found a way to do it better, and so all the time we're looking at, and as you scale up, is how can you be faster and faster and faster. So one great thing about firefighting that it taught me is that you're operating within a very small window, right, of time. And Christmas is the exact same way. And so when you look at, like, I tell people, like a police officer and he has his handgun, does he have like the bullets in one pocket, the magazine in another pocket? No, he's got one on his hip, racked back in the chamber to be able to deploy quickly. And so if you don't have that, and you're not pre-ordering supplies like through christmaslights.io and everything, and you're not getting those supplies now, it's a form of lost revenue. When you're on site prepping these bulbs and turning these things on site, you should be deploying very quickly. And that's how you're able to hit these high numbers, is prep work. You've got to prepare for this storm coming. And so that's a little bit what helps you scale up higher and higher and higher.
I want to hit on that because that's some pretty good revelation there that putting it kind of even a lot of things that we don't do a lot of the times that we should be doing, not just pre-bulbing, but what else can we have pre-ready to go, so that way we're not trying to do it on the fly. And I think this even comes back to the point of, you know, not just one person, but every person there should be ready to rock and roll. You should be, your salesperson should have all the stuff they need. Kind of back to what you were saying of the nutcrackers, that they can go find that information right away. Otherwise, you're going to be behind the eight ball and you're going to be shooting from the hips, and if you don't know where that is in 30 seconds, and then you're going to be trying to do an hour or 2 hour research. And at
Yeah.
that point, now we have taking our quotes and it's taking us 2 3 hours to get a quote, versus if we had all this stuff in our ducks in a row, we'd be able to get a quote out in 5 minutes. And honestly, I think this is something that a lot of customers love, is not, and I'm always talking about selling on emotion anyway. And emotion, and most of our customers are females, and you never know what their emotion is from 1 second to the next. But what we can do is if we can get that quote out really quickly, we are able to get that in a system to get that done. And we talked about this a little bit earlier. A lot of people, the number one system that is a failure for a lot of people is they don't answer their phone. And that is one of the biggest things that will, we talked about this too before we jumped on here, is everybody wants to know what the secret sauce is. And there really is no secret sauce out there. There is no special thing out there. You know what the special thing is? Answer your freaking phone. That's the number one thing. How many times, as busy as you guys are, you're doing 7 figures, how many times do you all let the phone go to voicemail?
We don't. So that's the thing is, you said answer the phone. Even now, especially with even iPhones, even if you don't have a business line, now it did it. I think it's this past year where they're telling you the voicemail, and that's not like, oh, it went to voicemail, I can't pick it up. They're saying their voicemail, and you can read it on your phone and pick it up and be like, hey, sorry, I missed. And then you have to interrupt them, and they're like, oh, I was leaving a voicemail. But with that is, we have a business line, and we're able to. We have departments, and based on your needs, and they'll go to that person. If that person can't do that at the time, then what they do is they transfer it. They see it pop up and they say, I can't take this. I'm busy. I'm going to transfer it. And so it goes to the level 2 person, level 3, level 4. The level 3 and 4 person don't know anything about it. They're just going to take the call and be like, yeah, Joey's in a meeting. He's going to call you back here in a little bit. You know what I mean? What can I do for you? Is there anything I can write down? And you're like, yeah, I want warm white on my roof line. I'm thinking about this or that. Okay. Did you fill out a request form on our website? Because that plugs into our CRM and they're able to service you faster. Oh, I need to do that. Yeah, go to this URL and you're going to be able to be dialed into it. And so you're help guiding your clients to where they need to go to get the fastest service. And so we have people, not just one person answering the phone. That is a recipe for disaster. You need contingency plan, contingency plan, contingency plan. And that same thing is like, can you give them enough information? Number 3 and number 4 in the company, do you know our standard? And that's one thing I want to harp on a little bit with scalability, is what we ran into is everybody started saying, Joey said this, Joey said that. And I completely shut it down. And I was like, listen, everybody, we're going to have a meeting. Okay. Murphy Christmas Lighting says this. Murphy Christmas Lighting says that, because we have standards. We have an SOP. We have standards. I enforce it. And if we have to amend those standards based on like something weird happening, then bring it to my attention. And then I ultimately have the approval to say overridden, right? Vetoed or whatever. But as long as you create that culture and that environment where people can be heard and understand like there is a standard, but like you said, is like, do they know enough to be able to mitigate those problems, or are you always bogged down? And I think that's what the 30-second thing solves a little bit, is that everybody has access to this like Discord, and also AI being integrated into things. Even Jobber got AI. I was like, holy moly, this is insane. And so you can move so much faster in this world and time. It's a great time to be alive and start Christmas lighting. It's so good. Like everybody else in the past is like, maybe we are a generation of dinosaurs. I don't know. And we're slowly bridging into this, but we're adapting to it and we're using technology to our advantage. Our business line also, when we talk to people, there's AI in the background that will take notes and say, hey, you said you would schedule a meeting for Thursday. And the system tells us that on a recap. So then we take that and I send it to somebody to plug that into our scheduling. And so therefore, I'm not having to recap the whole conversation. I just send the notes over that was done in the background. See how fast we're moving? It's really, really fast.
What are you using for your business line?
So for years in the past, I had Verizon One Talk, clunky system. It's one of those things as a business owner, you're like, I know it's bad. We just need to fix it, you know? But I moved over to a dial pad with T-Mobile. And again, this is what I'm doing. in the fire service, it's called authority having jurisdiction, the AHJ, right? It's like you won't get a ladder truck if you don't need there's no high rises. You'll get like a Quint maybe, and then get a ladder truck, but it's like you won't do that because you don't need it. And so with us is we needed a system to transfer calls. We're that big, and we have had a very good experience with T-Mobile, and then Dialpad is attached to T-Mobile. It's an independent thing, but T-Mobile pushes it, as far as what they do, and that's what we use right now. We switched in like February, so it's a very new thing to us, but I'm loving it.
So with the AI, that probably helps you out a lot too, because then you can inspect to make sure things are getting done properly. Also, correct? Because you got to inspect what you expect, right?
100%, and that's where we so there's departments, but then the main line is a lot of people aren't even talking in their departments. They'll talk to the client in the main line, and what you can do is it'll have like almost like a Facebook feed, and it'll say Chelsea Murphy, Jonathan said this to this client, and you're all talking. I don't even know if the client just thinks it's the same person or something, but with it is like we'll all be like you'll be able to be like, oh, I haven't really looked at the dial pad and I haven't messaged like talked to clients. Can you check up on that for me? And they don't have to have your phone. They can see all the client communication in one spot and start engaging with them. So when people have a little open time is everybody understands the standard. And so just start talking. It doesn't matter if it's me or Chelsea or Gracie or Jonathan and then you're not getting things missed because one thing we do with our CRM is the request form is we do ask the client the preferred way to be communicated to. It's about what the client wants. And guess what most people say? Text.
Text. I was just
They
gonna
say,
say
do not call me. I don't want to be called. I don't want to talk. Some people say call, and that to me is actually a little bit of a red flag. Like, why do you need to talk? We have great systems for you to communicate to, and everybody's moving 1,000 miles an hour. So I think we got our systems dialed in, and this year that's why I'm saying it's a great time to do Christmas lights.
Yeah, I know. I got a friend up in Indianapolis, not Sam, but another one that on his signs got call or text, and he's like, most people I never even talk to them. They love
Yeah.
the text, and like you get people they don't have time for text if they're at work. They don't have time to talk to people, and so yes, there's some people that want to talk to you, but most time text is way you can do that. And you can sell it just that way is through text. So
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is we engage with customers communication through text. We don't ever say numbers through text. We don't quote through text, and I think that's a bigger thing. I think with scalability is that it keeps things in order. When you go to our site and you fill out a request form to get a quote, it's almost like a ticket number. But we're getting hundreds of emails and text messages a day. It's human error, right? Like I can't keep track of all this stuff. But if as long as you keep the standard, the standard we have is to literally put in a request form. If you want anything from us, put it on our contact page. You do that, and if that is no little to no effort at all. So we don't like over the phone. What's your name? And we're typing in. No, we have a system where you can go in and fill out all your stuff, and that can get you started. That's step one. If we lose a $10,000 client because of that, fine, because the breakdown will be that the client doesn't know our systems, know how to be communicated to, know how to like maintenance is you go through your portal, you fill out a request form. That's maintenance. Jobs on takedown, I don't tell my customers when I take their lights down. It is a scheduled job, and you can log in at Christmas time and look when your job is scheduled to be for your lights. If you have something with that, fill out a request form and let me know.
so that's a let's move back a little bit. Let's get back to the six figure moving up and scaling, because obviously you didn't get here overnight. A lot of people want all these systems overnight and just be there to get there really fast, right? They want a system. They want the easy button, and there is no easy button out there. Period. I know a lot of people think there's a lot of easy buttons. I think that a lot of people think that people are lucky and do things. And I know Daniel's on here, and his very first year he did $179,000 his very first year, and they think that that's easy, but it's not, right? he stayed up to every night till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and woke up at 6 and went back out there to get it done. So let's move back a little bit and talk about what are the steps that we need to do to start getting systems in place, so that way we can keep moving forward.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think you have to create a business plan. I think that's also undervalued in the industry. Terms and conditions, a big one, but also your vision and your business plan. I just collaborated with the company. They first year, and they're in distribution, right? But their first year they did 300,000, and they're hitting 8 million this year. And with that is they the way they talk is like, at a company of that size, is like, what is our vision, what's our plan moving forward, and everybody discusses these things before they way happen. Like it's what gets you up in the morning, right? And it's your mission statement is a big one. I thought it was dumb. Even with the fire service, are like, memorize our mission statement, and you're like, yes, yes, yes. And it's like, it's important to set the core values. Like I can't like preach that enough when you get to a size, because you will always revert back to that standard. In our mission statement, are we really doing what we said we would do? Are we getting off track a little bit? And I think with Christmas lighting, it moves so fast, you can. And so with that is, they have a plan and a vision where they only engage with things that align with their business plan. So like, people are like, buy versus lease. That is an option to navigate in the forks in the road for a business plan. And I think people need to start creating business plans. And would you incorporate an inventory management system year one? You don't need to. You don't need that right now, right? What you do need to start right away is a CRM, 100%, because you can take pictures at job sites and everything. It's accountability. Because if you don't do that stuff, then when you incorporate that, like, you got to go backwards and you got to like try to fill all this stuff in. And it's going to be like a lot of your off season to build those things out. One thing is with versus
And you got to
leasing.
use the CRM.
Oh yeah, in the right way. That's the other thing, is people start invoicing and it's quote jobs invoice, quote jobs. It's a river. You got to go down the river. You can't invoice and then run a report for quotes converted. You can't do that. And people just don't know, right? But these are why we're having these lives and everything else, is to, so those first year guys are not tripping and falling. You're doing your due diligence by watching these feeds, watching Jason and taking what he is doing, and then actually putting it into motion. The one thing with leasing is the tax implications with it. I don't think anybody really understands what that is. It is actually tougher on the tax stuff to do leasing. So here, what we do is, I was talking to Brian Schreiner, I think it was like 2 years ago in the season, and I was talking about server issues with Twinkly and stuff like that. And then he was like, he said a word, and I was like, I never really looked at my company that way. But what we do here is, we are actually an asset company. So we gain assets, and then we're a project management company. That's what we are. We do not hang Christmas lights. We are a project management company that's assets and leases those assets out to those projects. Because I just so happen, behold, late commercial client. I'm like, what's going on? They're like, we want to do a redesign, and it's like $100,000 project. And I'm like, okay, but you had a 30-foot tower tree, and you had this, and you had this. And they're like, oh yeah, we did a $30 million renovation, and we do not want the tower tree anymore. And I'm like, well, that displaces that asset. That's an expensive asset. I wish I would have known about this earlier. I've been chiming you all year, and now that it's Christmas time, people call those people a premium vendor, by the way. So when they are late and they want something done, you're a premium vendor, because you can bend and you can make the magic happen. But to me, I'm like, where do I put that 30-foot tower tree now? And I don't have anybody on the books. I have actually one person in mind. Now I need to really dig in, because we're displacing those assets into another location. Because if it sits this year, that tree didn't get put up, and that's a valuable asset that I could have made money on that we didn't put into projects. And so the tax implications is, charging sales tax per state. You do have to do that, and then rendition tax, or business personal property tax. Um, that open. I did not know you needed to do that after like the third year, and I was like, "What? This doesn't make any sense to me." Like, the government is They're, they'll get every penny that they want to get on their soil, right? And so
Well,
that's
and
a
and that's
beautiful.
another thing about it too, right? The more money you make, the more money that everybody wants their fingers out into it, and so that's just a given guarantee right there. And again, it's about having a good CPA that knows the rules and knows
Yes.
what to know, how to get, and not get not put you in jail, because this is one place that you can go to jail is good old taxes.
Oh yeah, you don't pay taxes, they will come for you. They will, 100%. And so, planning for that in your business plan to be like, okay, we're going to lease, but what's the tax implications of that? Talk to your CPA, right? Everything's different between each state and the county and everything else. Talk to them. Try not to take any social online advice. Like, go seek real help. Call, like in Texas, is the Texas comptroller. Look on their site; it clearly says what you need to do. And if it's any question of it, give them a call, because the best thing you do is give them a call and start setting your business plan that way so you're not caught up. And then even if you have to educate your CPA, because they may not understand the tax implications with Christmas lights, that's actually a niche specialty industry. So getting everybody as a team, and your bookkeeping, your accounting, your financial advisor, that comes when you start hitting those bigger numbers, right? Because your accountant may keep, and your bookkeeping may be keeping things in right. Your CPA is filing things for you, but who's really strategizing between all the different things you're pulling in and services you're pulling in? So you need like a strategist, you
Well,
know?
let's hit on that because a lot of people don't get that, right? What is your long-term goal? How many people in here have retirements and different things
Yeah.
or assets that you can use as a retirement asset, right? Are you putting money into real estate? Are you doing different things to put your money so that it's making you money versus just blowing it all because you didn't do the right things, which is important. I think a lot of guys, in this business or even pressure washing business, don't think more than just this year. They're not thinking what are you going to do in 20 years when you hit
Yeah.
60? Are you because you're not going to be able to keep hanging lights the rest of your life if you want to do something else when you get old. And so what have you done to start setting your assets up so that way you can bring it back? And how can you use that for tax defer and all of these other things that you can do? But you need to be looking at that to make sure that you're not missing out on any of these things.
And that's where those assets, like an inventory management system, becomes even more relevant, is if you're leasing, because you're gaining assets and then you need to keep track of those assets and moving those assets around. Because trust me, like, I know where everything is in my warehouse, but in 30 seconds, do you know where it is, right? And it's like, well, I think it's over here, I think it's over there, but you're keeping track of your assets. And then the other thing is if you're looking for retirement, you do have an asset company with project management that's a multi-year contract. Now it becomes like a sellable business that I would want to buy. But do you have an inventory management system that, how many wreaths do you have? How many bows do you have? How many bulbs do you have? What am I buying? Because if not, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to look at it and I'm going to super undervalue it. And then you can't prove of what you have, or it takes too much effort to do that. I'm going to buy your business for a lot less, right? Versus if you have amazing systems, I can get somebody in and trained up in 1 week to take over my business if they knew this industry, because you can find everything within 30 seconds in my business. So it's a sellable business. So that's what I tell Jonathan all the time. He's like, should I track disposable goods like toilet paper in the warehouse? I'm like, no, because it doesn't matter on a sellable standpoint. So you need to keep track of everything that somebody would want to look at, not consumable goods, just what they would buy up. Every drill, every glue gun, assets is what we're
Well, and
looking
not only that, if something bad happens, like it catches on fire or something, you need to have that also, so that way you can get your insurance. And you need to make sure that you have the proper insurance and the insurance is going to cover everything. Because if you lose your building, you just lost $7 million or $1 million, whatever you make, $1 million worth of inventory is gone.
And that's a really good point right there. Is you need to explain to your insurance agent exactly what you need. Like, we have a retail insurance, so that way people can come into our warehouse, and if they get injured, then there is liability for that. And it's like, well, what if this burns down? You need to play the what if game, right? Because You custom cut all those lights, right? Like, let's say you build $1 million business, you custom cut all the lights. Rehangs are fast, right? The insurance can pay you out for that materials and product, but then you're going to have to recut all the homes. You're still, even if you pay all that, you're still taking a step back. And so during this time where something bad happened, is now you get blown back even further. And if you don't have the right systems in place to report on that claim, what was inside that warehouse, images, like inventory management system that's cloud based, everything needs to be cloud based. Okay. You shouldn't have like, it's not, 2010 and you're like, oh, I lost all the music off of LimeWire or this or that. It's like, no, you need to
I
have it
thought you were
where
going to
you
say
can.
like 1999 or something. You only went to
Yeah, we're
2010.
going. I'm showing my age a little bit, but I'm not that old. I'm 35. But
but right, but that's kind of where people are, and they don't get sometimes when they don't understand why things cost so much. And yes, you're going to make more, but you still got everything else that goes out that you have to do. So with that, I got a few questions in here. I seen some people. I just wanted to kind of answer anybody's questions. I seen a couple people in here. I thought they had a question. Oh, here's one right here. What's a good rate to pay a salesman? Actually, I got this one from David Hamill too. So what's a good what? How do you pay salesmen? How do you do it? Do you do it all online, in person? What are some things like that?
yeah, so our sales process is like commercial. It's a lot of me because we're like a design company almost, and I know everything everywhere. I'm just obsessed with everything. I know where everything's the new stuff. Like design wise, is I do Photoshop and I design that out. I'm a big fan of that. There's some great systems for guys out there. Jason could probably clue you in on a lot of that stuff, but I do Photoshop and the commercial side. Chelsea does residentials, and there is a standard there of like selling. And the thing is even in we use Jobber. I'll just be clear with it. But one great thing they added on was the salesperson report. Now they added salesperson report, and so I want to create a pay for performance thing. If you convert, like that shows the sales they're pushing out and then the conversion on it. And if somebody's driving your company up, so I even with Gracie and stuff is I said, hey, you're like, hourly and overtime. It's salary, but it's broken up into hourly, and so she goes into overtime, just like fire department stuff. And but I was like, I want you to be able to push the company further and expand your roles and responsibilities. And so now I have a way to track the salesperson conversion on those. And so I help her create our tidings of comfort and joy. It's our proposal process in our commercial. We do proposals, and I can define those later if y'all want to know. But what it does is I can now track the salesperson side of it, and that's sustainability, that's scalability, right? And so I don't pay salespeople. I have my internal people, like our admin side, kind of do all that, and then there's crews that just execute the service, like actually doing it, right? Because sales is an art form. It 100% is. It's psychology. It's like if you want to be a greater salesman, start understanding people a little bit more. Ask people. I always say you're not asking the right questions, and I'll give you an example of that is like I was in a meeting 4 or 5 years ago. It was a city project, $250,000. It's a 3-year contract. You get $250,000 per year with a 4-year extension. It's basically it could be $1 million projected revenue. And I bid it out. It took me a week to Photoshop, to line everything out. It took me a whole week. I was just exhausted from quoting this giant ass project. And I went and I saw who won the bid. And I looked at what they were bidding per item. 50-foot tower tree, $26,000. And I was like, what? How are they able to do this? And so then I looked at on their processes. It's not just salesmen and talking a good game. It's also building up the infrastructure. I was like, this guy has a 50-foot tower tree that is paid off as an asset. So he can lease it for whatever he wants. And I'm just not there yet. So I'm going to lose all these bids if I don't gain my assets, right? So then I went into hyper mode of being really aggressive with commercial to gain the asset so I can use it later. And you're an asset company in project management. So you want to gain that asset as much as humanly possible. And if anybody's priced out a 50-foot tower tree, you're going to take a big L the first year on that one if you were to win that bid. And so it's about being competitive and seeing what your market is doing. But on the topic of salesperson and stuff like that, is also for them to understand. Chelsea watches The Office. She's obsessed, right? Michael Scott is the greatest salesman of all time, but it's like that. The theories behind driving sales is you just cannot hire anybody for it. Somebody has to be good at certain characteristics to be able to be good at it. They don't have to like, oh, I just got into sales and they're crushing it. Like you'll see roofing companies and they're like, I've never sold anything. And look at that. I'm making 6 figures a year making sales. It's because you have the right characteristics to be the salesperson. And so when people ask you, what do you pay your salesperson? I think it's really good to give them like, and this is just my opinion, but give them like a base. But it's low. It's super low. Like if you don't do anything, it's no harm, no foul. Maybe I didn't teach you enough, but we got to get a new salesperson here. And then do pay for performance and try to track that within your systems, which means you need a system to track that.
So when Chelsea needs a new purse, you can be like, well, honey, you haven't got to that percentage yet. So
I was like $100,000 conversion or no Gucci bag. Yeah.
This is a question I want to ask you because I don't know what the answer is, to be honest, because I don't know what the conversion is. But Bakar asks, should I charge $10 AUD per foot? That's Australian. Hey, mate.
What's the conversion on that? I don't know.
I don't know what the conversion is either, but he said it was midnight there tonight. So that's something that I don't know what the conversion of it is, but I thought that was funny. It's funny. It's pretty neat to see people all over the world join us on a Christmas light show. So,
yeah, we're talking in USD. I think it was on your forum. They said Canadian dollars, like the abbreviation for that. And I'm like, I didn't catch it. And I'm like, what are you talking like? And it's like, I know US dollars. So if you say it's like 1.25, then maybe I can do the math real quick and we can talk. But yeah, we're talking, I'm in Texas. So.
Yeah. Texas, we don't know no Australian stuff. It's all the way around the world.
It is. It's very far.
But let's hit. I know we're hitting about the hour. But what are some things that if you had to start all over for a new guy or in that position, what are some things that you would do to get started?
So I don't think you should overthink the branding and all that kind of stuff. I think if you look at it, when you think of Tesla, who do you think of? And you're going to name the man. You're going to name the man, right? If I say Jif Peanut Butter, who do you say? Jif is made in like Kentucky area, isn't it? Like that's even around you. Huh?
It's actually up in Ohio.
Oh, Ohio? But it's like the person behind the brand, I think, drives a lot of it. Just like I was saying with the Facebook thing, is you got to do a good service, and it don't matter what your name is. You can figure that out later. You can even change it a little bit. Just notify your clients. It's nice to have the wrap trucks and the branding and all that stuff, but you really need to separate yourself in the market. In DFW, it's a saturated market. It's the 4th biggest metroplex in the United States. Everybody's doing it. You don't need a license. You don't need permits to do this stuff. You can go do it all on your own, no schooling, and start up the company. So how do you separate yourself there? And that's a lot of it is about what are we going to do and how are we going to do it in a different way? It's client communication. Like number one, get a CRM. For the love of God, get a CRM. Jobber, they're even doing 3 months free, and then the person with the referral link is given 3 months. You won't even. You'll be taking down lights and you don't even pay for the thing yet. You know what I mean? Try it out. Get it started with the CRM. The next thing is come up with a business plan. You do need a business plan. Say, I will do leasing. I will try these things. Because if you look at like a scientific approach to things, is it working? Right? And then what variables, and is there a constant? The constant is time. The variables is everything you can change. And so set variables where that constant of time, you can do a lot very quickly in a short time. And that you'll do that with a CRM 100%. Come up with your processes in a standard. Write some SOPs. Ask ChatGPT. It's pretty good. At first I was like, I don't know about this thing. It's a little clunky, but it's getting better and better and better and better. And it gives really good advice. Ask about the tax stuff on there. And you don't have to ask your CPA, but confirm it with your CPA, right? Don't get false information. Get an accountant, get a bookkeeper, and get a CPA. Those three separate things. You shouldn't have to worry so much about a financial advisor year one. But if you put these things into position, the other thing is get quality products, right? Like there's a 5-year rated bulb at Christmas Lights IO. I don't know anybody else who has bigger than that. So if you're trying to look at buying products, and then the other thing is, does that company back their warranty? Because they could say all day long, lifetime warranty, but then they're out of business in 5 years. And then guess what? Now you have all this product 7 years later that's getting messed up. So they enforce their warranties with it.
Did you
And
know?
then
I want to hit on that. Did you know lifetime
yeah,
warranty is only 7 years?
the false advertising of it.
No, like if you look at like I think Texas is one, a couple other one. If you go lifetime warranty, it is for 7 years, and you can say
where
it's
where
lifetime warranty.
where did you see that source at? Because I'm curious, as maybe other people.
I actually just heard this past week, and I'll find it
Yeah.
for you. But I actually just found out that I don't remember where it was at, but someone was just telling me about this, that if they say lifetime warranty, it's only for 7 years or whatever your state is definition of lifetime. Each state has a definition of lifetime. And in that lifetime is what it is for when, if you say lifetime warranty, it's really only for 7 years or however long your state says it's for.
That's interesting because I know like Amp and Volt with landscape lighting people, they share their price online. They're in like Costco. They have that. And it's like, that's where you need to dig in and understand it is a liability when you put this stuff out for your company. Liability is a big thing. You think everything's just, oh, we're going to plug everything in and everything. No, it's like when you get in trouble, you need to be backed by insurance. And then the manufacturer and what their warranty is. And are they UL rated or this or that? UL is a third party process. People that aren't UL rated, it may last forever, but they just didn't
Right.
go through the processes that the strenuous tests that they put on them. And so that's super interesting you say that. I think everybody should dig into that and actually use that amp and volt as an example. Like, is that true? Call them
Right.
up. See
Right.
if it's true.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's a good point. What I want to hit on a little bit of what if you're just starting out, what would you do for marketing?
I'm no marketing guru at all, but with it is, you do need to get your name out there. I think if you're first starting out, because I have one guy mentoring and he's not really getting traction. I'm like, okay, what are you doing exactly? And he's like, well, I'm on Facebook groups and Facebook forums. I'm like, well, you have 10 family member or the friends, you have people. The biggest thing is a lot of people are like, oh, charge a lot for your service. Don't give anything away. I don't know if that's 100% true when you first start out. If I had to start over again, I'd probably give something away as like a giveaway, right? Like I would make it a contest to get traction into the business and everything because you just don't have marketing dollar. You have no cash flow, right? So, but what you can do is do that, give that experience to that client and say if when you win, can you like share your experience, do a live feed, give a Google review, and that will ramp your business up a little bit, and then take a picture of it, plug it into your CRM on the job, then use the CRM to do your marketing. And you can do MailChimp. Jobber even has its own marketing now. And that one wreath, because if you look at it, when I looked at doing marketing, is I could pay Facebook ads and Google ads. But if you don't have the infrastructure set up, if you don't have the website and it kind of like people to bring it in and create that experience, is like, how would you get great marketing? If you put up a wreath on somebody's house as a giveaway, they're going to share it across social media. How many people are going to see it? Then you're going to take a marketing photo of it because you've never done greenery before. And now you can take that photo and you can actually market it and say, this is my photo, this is my work. And how much value is that versus just paying ad space? I think it's more powerful if you can take that experience, give it to your clients, and then your clients just start sharing it around. You actually gain the projects and things. We even to this day, every year I have something I want to do. And I created on a monument 30 feet up, there's two of them, they mirrored, is a custom 8-foot 3-dimensional bow. And I wanted to get into 3-dimensional bow space because I see them, but I've never really done one. Like I've done tower trees and reindeer and all this stuff, but I'm like, I want like a custom bow in 7 pieces, and we have to hoist it up with a crane. And it's like, so once I take that photo, it's like, whoa, look what they did. You know what I mean? And I do the same principle. And Murphy Christmas Lighting, that's my company. We do not, we haven't paid an ad dollar in Murphy Christmas Lighting in 6 years because we are organic Google. We get so many leads through that. All any marketing is done is like through chambers. We give brand presence a little bit, people knowing who we are, but I don't pay any money to Google or Facebook, and we get plenty of leads. But you have to build up a company that can be that way, and I think we've done it a little bit. But when you first start out, is it's
It
okay.
takes, I always say it takes about 3 to 4 years to be able to get to that point where you'll
Yeah,
start getting the referrals and people know who you are at that point. If you work your Google reviews, you're going to, it takes, I always say 3 to 4 years if you work it properly before you're going to just start getting stuff without no leads and stuff. So,
yeah. It's tough. It is. It's business, right? But there is some stuff like Jason has the yard signs. All this stuff is. We have a big company around here that's just blowing up, and they put a yard sign in everybody's front yards, and it's very easy to see. You could see their logo. It's just really a white background number and their logo, and they have big letters, and it's just like, every time somebody passes by there, they're targeting residentials. They don't put it in the medians, right? Because it gets stolen, it gets ripped away. But every project you do, you can do that. And I did it. I did it for a little bit. I just didn't see the value in it because my work was so good that they were already sharing it with their neighbors and everything. So I just felt like if it's a great project, people will be like, "Who did that?" And then actually they want to go to their neighbor because there is no yard sign, and they're like, "Who did that? Look at that bow on that like candy cane bow with the red." And it's just like that's what I want. I want people to preach my business, not just look at it from there. So, but that's just us.
I like what you said too about the doing something. You know, a lot of times people always want to know how they get these big trees and stuff, and a lot of times you're doing one or two for free, or cost basically, and then you can show what you can do, and people like that, right? And I think especially when you start talking these big trees or these big things that might be unnormal, that's how you can actually get those. And you know, I think back to people like Somerset and different people that are getting, you know, their minimum jobs are 10 grand, and that's, you know, and they're doing these big giant trees is because they've done a bunch of them and they got pictures of them, and then people know what they can and can't do at that point.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of talk and then action, and the reason why maybe I don't have so much social media presence and everything else is because I am a performer. I am building. I'm constructing. We're building an empire over here that I feel like, and with it is I don't stop and do those little things that I know I maybe should be doing, and that's just a weakness of mine. But again, what's your weakness? What's your strengths? Put that on the vision, and how can we improve upon it? And I think that's how you develop as a person and a business owner for sure.
One last thing too before we jump off here. Tell me a little bit. I know you did it at our class. Tell me a little bit about safety. I know we got F bomb in here. He's always about safety too, but I honestly think safety is a big thing because it is one of those things that you can make $1 million, but if you fall off the roof, it ain't going to do you no good at that point. So talk a little bit
Yeah.
about safety.
Safety is super dear to my heart because I was in public safety, which first responders are. I was safety oriented. We always did size ups on every scene. It was everybody's job to do a size up, right? And so part of that is resources and everything else. But where first responders, their job is to mitigate emergencies. That's their job, is to dampen the burden of loss of property or of life. That's what your job is. And so with as a business owner, it's even me as I'm like, I could get up there and do it, right? But at the same time, I'm like, that actually puts the company at risk because if I get hurt, if I'm the one really pulling all the levers, what does it look like if I wake up in January from a coma? And immediately when I wake up, I'm like, is my family okay? Is this okay? And then immediately in my head, I'm like, how did the company do? Like, oh my God, like, did we just fail because we're a seasonal business? And it's like, so I try not to put myself in those situations anymore because of just the sustainability of the company. But I am safety minded. I do have videos out of roof safety and using ropes, anchors, learning your knots and stuff like that. I think it's super important to understand it before you do it because you can put yourself in a bind really quickly. But there is a bunch of safety equipment out there that is just the learning curve is that's what I hope to do over time is kind of shorten the learning curve where it's like if everybody's worried about OSHA and all this stuff is like what you should be worried about is like, in the end, is I don't want to fall off this roof. Okay. So if I just put the best foot forward to that, you're doing better than 90% of the people out there because they don't have that safety mindset. We have checklists every week in season in the warehouse, even of what we can fix or do, like within the warehouse to shorten that safety. Like, hey, I actually scraped myself on this wall 3 times in the past month. And it's like, okay, I don't take offense to that. It's just like, okay, well, let's break it down. Why that is it because you're turning the corner quickly and that's there? So let's like eliminate that hazard, right? If you're getting up in a lift, do you have self-retracting lanyards? Do you have harnesses? So if you're doing lift work, it's not just renting the lift. You have to buy the harnesses. You have to, because guess what? If something happens and you fall out, you're going to be in the hospital or dead in the coffin, right? And you'll be in the hospital and you'll be like, I didn't buy that $100 harness, and so now I have a $6,000, out of pocket expense on all my broken bones. And look how much lost revenue in the company is. Like, it seems silly when you're laying in that bed, right? And
And you
so I
might be
think,
like, man, I'm not even going up that high, right? But have you seen the
uh,
lift where they're driving only 4 feet off the ground and he falls off and it hits something and it shoots him flying up in the air? That's why you should be wearing a harness.
I've ran emergency calls where somebody was in their attic and they fell through the attic space and landed uh, head first on tile. And it's like, well, how far is that? And that's 10 feet. If you're
Right.
above 10 feet, you need to be mindful. So the thing is, I'm not scared of heights, but I respect heights.
Well, we had a
And so
guy at Lowe's. He fell off the ladder. He was only about 6 feet up, hit his head, and he's not here no more.
that's crazy. See, that's what I'm saying is I've ran enough calls as a emergency responder and I've seen it real world. And then those stories like that, where you're saying 6 feet, if you look at it, 3 times the height is an increased mechanism of injury, right? They teach you that. So if you're 6 feet tall and fall from 8 feet, that is actually, you will go to this level of trauma center because statistically is that you are more injured than what we can see because of the fall of height of what you are. So like kids and stuff, when they get up higher and higher and then they fall, well, how tall is the kid? Three times three is 9. They were 15 feet up. Oh, that's literally pediatric trauma. We're going to take them there, level 1 trauma.
Where do you hook at on the lift? Most of them have the little eyelets that you actually hook on either at the bottom of the base of the. Usually, it's on the actual the lift base itself, not on the actual basket. Some of them are on the basket, but most of them you're hooking into. It'll have a little. It'll have an eye hook there, and it'll have a little thing that says "hook here," basically.
And I mean, you can just go, this can be a whole topic, but like carabiners that are for rope rescue and base self locking carabiners. So that way you don't have to twist lock the carabiner because if you come out, there's so much safety stuff. And hopefully I can get in some trainings and stuff on that and kind of share my expertise because I'm pro board, certified on all this stuff. And I have those experiences of real world applications in emergencies. So that's one thing is people are like, oh, it takes too long to set up. If you look at emergency responders, they don't have a lot of time. So I can tie a knot 5 different ways and I've mastered that craft. And it's like, okay, you don't know how to do a butterfly this way. What about this way? And you're like, oh, that's easier. And it's like, well, now you did an anchor point in the middle of the knot. Congratulations. Moved on.
Joey,
And
if you don't know how to tie a knot, just tie a lot. You know that.
that's all you got to do. That's the other saying, right? And it's just going to be really hard to get that knot out is all.
No, I'll tell you what happened is when you tie a lot, it comes out and you fall out of a tree and you hit your head. That's what
Yeah.
happens.
That's why I said you can get in trouble. And so that's why I think it needs to be spread about the safety of everybody. Everybody goes home. That's fire service, right? And I think that is the same way with Christmas lights is let's go to our families because that's what we're really doing this for is our kids, our family, to prove things to ourselves. And you want to be in it for the long game. So,
All right. So, what is some words of encouragement for people?
man, I think the biggest thing is to put into motion. I think that's been said a lot, but number one is if you don't put it into action, then there won't be that result, right? So it's a mixture of ingredients, willpower, want, what's your story? I know people say, what is your why and all this stuff. All of that matters. Why? Create a mission statement. That's another reason of why you're doing what you're doing. And so I think that's what should get you up in the morning, set goals for yourself, set achievable goals. Don't for yourself, because everybody is different. And a lot of guys can hit $100,000 their first year or more, but look at what they're doing. They also have clientele maybe, or they have another service they're banking on. I started with no business out the gate with a pink scooter and door hangers that I put C7 on. Like if I could go back, I would do some little things different, but I had the most willpower. I knew I was going to create this thing into something big. And that hot blue flame inside of you, if you can bring it out and then you construct this just monument of a business that can't be replicated overnight because you have amazing systems. It's you're tracking the work along the way with your CRM and everything and client communication. It's all logged, cloud based. It's a beautiful thing for you to maybe sell your business later. And how good is that? Like we built a light show and we sold it, right? It's not just about building and running it. It's also selling it. That's also very difficult to do. And so if you can build your systems to that, keep that drive, follow Jason and what he's saying, take his advice, not with a grain of salt, but actually absorb it, put it into motion, test things, come up with new things, build the industry, try to innovate something, try to come up with different ways of doing things, get some feedback, but don't take it personal. It's just business. If people are chiming in and saying that's, this is crap, that's crap, I've done this for 20, you're trying things. And I think that's the most important thing, and keep that safety mindset aspect along the whole way, and you cannot go wrong.
All right, guys. Well, I know we're a little bit longer than normal, but I think hopefully you got something out of it. You should have. Go check out ChristmasLights.io. I have all the lights you need there. So if you need any lights, go check it out. The Facebook group, ChristmasLights.io/group. I've got one other thing here too I didn't put on there, but I'll pull up here because I know that some people want to know. If you want to know when I go live, I know, yes, I'm supposed to go live on pressure washing on Sunday night, but tonight I decided to make it Christmas lights because we're right in season. This is the start of the season for most people, unless you've been in business. You can, if you text the word light, LITE, to 855-619-5483. Whenever I go live, I will send out a text message to you to let you know that I'm going live. And I go live every Wednesday night and Sunday night. I'll probably be talking about Christmas lights every Wednesday and Sunday night for the next 6 weeks. Don't get discouraged. I know a lot of people start Christmas light businesses, and I got my stuff going off here. Don't get discouraged. I see a lot of people, they start Christmas light businesses and they're like, Jason, you tell me to bid this much and I ain't got no jobs yet. Well, it's when you're first starting out in October, you really don't start getting leads till about November. And I'm not just saying that to say that, I'm being truthful. Yeah. If you're running Facebook ads and you're doing Google ads and it's really a system of how you sell, right? I mean, I could give you $1 million worth of leads, but if you don't know how to sell it, kind of going back to what Joey was saying earlier, if you don't know how to sell it, it doesn't do you no good. So, you kind of got to know how to sell. Again, I'll see people, they'll be like, I've quoted 5 people and I haven't closed one. Great. You got 4 more to go to get to that 10%. I tell you, when you do premium pricing, you're only going to be 10 to 20%. So that means out of 8 times or out of 10 times, you're only going to get 2. So that means you get 8 no's. And sometimes you got to get to 20, and you'll see it on 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20 because it is a learning process. It's not something that's just going to be easy. I never said it's easy. Joey never said it's easy. It takes work. And in the end of this, it takes action. You got to stay positive. Don't get negative. If you get negative, it's not going to help you out. You got to stay positive. You got to look at every no and look at what you did and learn from it. Figure out, kind of back to what Joey said of selling isn't really selling the bulb. It's knowing the people and what do they want and how do they, learn about psychology and learn about psychology of sales. And, I just read the book, The Wolf of Wall Street or whatever. It's a great book teaching about sales, right? And guess what? It talks about psychology and how the people work and how people tick. And guess what? That's all important when we're talking about sales. When we're trying to learn and sell on Christmas lights, again, don't get discouraged. If it's your first year, we're just now getting to where the peak of sales is. And, even people that have been in business a long time, yes, I guarantee you, Joey's been getting bids and jobs since July, but he's got a large, he's probably got lots of reviews. His Google business has been in business for a long time. He's got the background, right? He has it. And so just don't get discouraged. I promise you, you can do a lot in these next 4 to 6 weeks. You can hit $100,000 in the next 4 to 6 weeks. It can happen. Is it going to happen to everybody? No, but I promise you, if you put in the work, if you do the work, it's not easy. Like I said with Daniel, he hit $179,000 his first year, and he did it with one other dude. Him and one other dude pretty much did it all. He never got on one. He only got on like one or two roofs because he paid someone to get on the roofs, and he didn't have another business to pull from. This was his first business, and so it is possible. But did he stay up till every night till 2 o'clock in the morning? Yes. Did he wake up every day at 6? Yes. But you know what? That's what you got to do. If this was easy, everybody would do it. I promise you. And kind of like Joey said, not everybody's a salesman. If you suck, most of us guys, a lot of time are technician mindset, and it doesn't do us good for the sales side. It doesn't help us out a lot at all. So go out there, take action, make things happen, and I promise you, you will be able to have time freedom, not in the next 6 weeks, but after that, because the next 6 weeks will get crazy if you're in this Christmas business.
Yeah, if your conversion rate's 100%, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, I actually had a guy, he's like, we're 90%. I'm like, you need to raise your prices a lot.
You're doing it wrong. Yeah, you're losing revenue.
And here's the thing, I know I teach premium pricing, but there's a reason why, man. I love telling the story of Rick Moosey, right? Rick Moosey came into my program. I started mentoring him, and he changed how he started marketing, and he raised his prices, and he made twice as much money and did the exact same amount of jobs as he did to do 150,000. He did the exact same amount of jobs and make 300,000 a year later, but all because he just changed his pricing. And guess what? Guess what happens when that happens? Your profit goes way up because you're not having to pay all the fuel, all the work. You don't have to pay all that stuff. So that's the awesome thing about that. All right. Well, hope you all have a great night, and we'll see you all later. Hang on, Joe.